there. I am Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, be Brandon Davies. Smash a little bit. And if you haven't already subscribed to the Eye on College Basketball podcast, please go do that wherever you subscribe to podcasts like Apple and Spotify. Let's get into it. Today is January 4th, 2026. We are now 9 full weeks into this season. There are still 6 undefeated teams left in the sport. Trivia time. Can you start with the trivia time?
Let's rock it.
Okay, Norlander. Do you know how many undefeated teams there were after 9 full weeks of last season?
0.
That's an incorrect answer.
Really?
No, I think Tennessee started 14-0 through the first 9 weeks of the season, then lost on January 7th at Florida. They were 14-0. I don't remember this way. They were 14-0, went to Florida, lost 73 to 43. So their first loss was a 30-point loss, but they were the last undefeated team last season, and that lasted through January 7th. But through the first 9 weeks of the season, there was only one. Again, there are 6 right now. So this is wildly unusual to have this many undefeated teams this deep into the season.
It is. Okay, so they must have cleared that final week. What's funny about you saying you don't remember this is I brought up that very loss on our year in review show like 2 podcasts ago.
Yeah, I wasn't. I clock out on a lot of that stuff. I don't feel like, I feel like I lived through it. Anytime we're doing like year in review, it's like I lived through this. I've already forgotten most of it. I don't know if I'll ever need it again. So when you start like, and then if you remember, Tennessee was undefeated and went to Florida, I'm like, whatever. And I'm just over here like, look, I'm scrolling, seeing what Tom Brady and Alex Earl are up to.
Okay, fair enough. Trivia time.
Okay, let's go.
We're going to get to at least January 5th tomorrow because none of the undefeated teams play until tomorrow night at the earliest. So we'll get to at least January 5th with 6 undefeated teams. When's the most recent season that we had 6 undefeateds remaining as of January 5th in that given year?
I can tell you it hasn't been in the last 5 years because I went and looked that up. So it's going to be before that.
This doesn't include the 2021 COVID season, which was staggered, started late. You got to throw that one out the window.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the 2007-2008 season.
More recent than that.
Oh, yeah, then that was it sounds like we're talking about 2011, 2012.
More recent than that.
Oh, if I'm thinking correctly, this sounds like, to me, this feels like 2014, 2015.
Not as recent. It was 13-14. That was most memorably the year that Wichita State got all the way to the second round of the NCAA tournament with an undefeated record. You want to know the others? I'm going to make you wait for it. I'll have that a little bit later in the week at cbssports.com. To me, GP, the 6 that are standing, all interesting stories for a variety of reasons, but you led with Vandy in the top 25 and 1. Its win over the weekend wasn't the most notable. In fact, I'd say Vanderbilt's win wasn't one of the 12 most notable results at minimum of what happened on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but Vandy is 14-0. Mm-hmm. And getting the win at South Carolina, putting itself in the position of a valid SEC contender. It's been there for a couple of weeks, but you open up league play, you don't mess around. You don't even have your best player, your high score in that game. Duke Miles didn't play. Tyler Tanner shows up well. So let's open on the Commodores. Where do you have them in your latest top 25 and 1 ranking? What are your general thoughts on their viability nationally? Because right now, this team is putting up the kind of performances, the kind of win differentials, point differentials that suggest it's very good. The one major thing lacking here, of course, is to this point, it's yet to beat a truly, I guess, notable opponent. They beat St. Mary's at home. Good, but the real big test comes Wednesday when Alabama comes to town.
And all of that is partly why I wanted to start with them, and then we will get to the other 5 undefeated teams. But with Vanderbilt, I think it's real interesting because like most of these other undefeated teams, you could kind of maybe not see undefeated on January 4th coming, but like they were supposed, like Iowa State was supposed to be good. Arizona was supposed to be good. Michigan was supposed to be good. Miami, Ohio, like always projected as a team that was going to win a lot based on the schedule and other things. But Vandy is the one that was like, all right, they're not ranked in the preseason AP poll. Well, all that stuff. Now they're 14-0. Like you said, 0 victories over currently ranked teams in the AP poll. But I did think it was a nice weekend for Vandy because of what happened elsewhere. Because despite it having 0 wins over currently ranked teams, and that could change on Monday, by the way, win over UCF. UCF just beat Kansas. They do have a win over SMU. SMU just beat UNC. I moved Central Florida and Southern Methodist into the top 25-1 on Sunday morning. So right now, UCF is 19th. SMU is 20th. So as I wrote, in this moment, Vandy has 0 wins over ranked teams, but they could have 2 by tomorrow if the AP poll follows the top 25-1. Not that it will, or even that it should, but if it does, then Vandy's resume, you won't be able to say what you've been able to say about them all season long. You won't be able to say it anymore. Either way, something changes on Wednesday because that's when they do play not only a ranked team, but outside of them, perhaps the favorite to win the SEC. They get Alabama at home in Memorial. And I got to imagine, like I have friends who graduated from Vanderbilt, and I should have sent some text off just to pick their brain, but this has got to be one of the most anticipated home games at Memorial in a really, really long time. So Vandy doesn't have the signature wins that, say, an Arizona has, but they are 14-0 with 12 double-digit wins. They've got the 2 wins over SMU and UCF with an opportunity midweek to really establish themselves in a way that perhaps they haven't been able to do so far. But bottom line, if there are any Vandy skeptics still out there, if Vandy gets to 15-0, they'll all have to come around because we know what Alabama is. And if you are able to get to 15-0 beating that team after what that team just did to Kentucky this weekend, we'll get to that later, then the computer numbers that you have created start to look more realistic than maybe some people have attached to them to this point. Let me ask you this. So Vanderbilt is up to number 5 at KenPom. 5th at KenPom suggests national title contender. Do you feel that way? Do you think of Vanderbilt as a national title contender right now?
No, not yet. I think it's fair to want a little bit more. They do have 3 wins over teams that would be projected into the tournament now. I mentioned St. Mary's. You mentioned the UCF and the SMU components there. So they've got 3 good quality quad 1 level or borderline Q1 level wins right now. Beat Alabama, then I think we have a different conversation. I also think, by the way, that's entirely fair. What they've done so far is extremely impressive. No doubt about it. They're well balanced on both sides of the floor. Duke Miles and Tyler Tanner have been one of the better duos in the country. They're only 2 of 6 Division I players in the entire sport, averaging at least 16 points, 4 assists, and 2 steals plus per game. And they're the only teammates doing it. So I think they're knocking on the door. I don't think it's irrational to say, can I get one more really good performance? You're at home, Alabama coming to town. Let's make sure this thing is solidified. So if they can win on Wednesday, and we'll obviously preview this game again on the Wednesday morning show before that tips off on Wednesday, we'll wait and see. But a really, really good story. Only the second time ever Vanderbilt's gotten to this point on the calendar without a scar. The best start ever was 07-08. They got to 16-0. That team was a 4 seed, upset in the first round. It was actually a trendy. I remember that. Turney, I remember that upset pick because it was very trendy. Siena was the trendy upset pick, and that indeed wound up happening. Vandy went down, but this team's got a chance to match that for best start ever, if not exceed it.
Just real quick on the roster, you mentioned Duke Miles has missed the past couple of games. He is their leading scorer. Tyler Tanner's been like the breakout player for them, one of the breakout players in the SEC, one of the breakout players in the country. Fun story, little guard, 6 foot, from Brentwood, Tennessee, which is, that's Nashville. So it's a local guy starring at the local university. Averaged 5.7 points as a freshman last season, now up to 16.2 points per game, 52.7% from the field, above 43% from 3. He's been fantastic. And yeah, what's happening in Nashville right now, just everything, incredible football season with a legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate. And now your basketball team's one of the 6 remaining undefeated teams in Division I. You want to move on to the other 5?
let's talk about it because there's a lot to get to. I mean, we had 12 of the preseason top 25 teams take a loss this weekend, and we're going to get to those eventually. But I figure we start with the positive here, and maybe even flash it back to start with Nebraska and what it did Friday night GP at Pinnacle Bank.
Number 9, Nebraska in the top 25-1 after its victory over Michigan State at Pinnacle Bank. They're now 14-0. I tried to tell you, you conducted yourself as a non-believer. You didn't trust Pinnacle Bank. I've worked relentlessly to try to build this podcast into the official
Josh, you can go to a commercial anytime you want.
Podcast of Pinnacle Bank Arena. And I thought I had pulled you along with me. I thought this was something we were doing hand in hand. But you broke away from me on Friday. And then you paid that price on Friday night as you were sitting there watching Peacock. What'd you think when you saw the court storm? And once again, the home team inside Pinnacle Bank walked away with a victory, like always.
Well, unless I'm mistaken, I think we're supposed to have a break before we get to the rest of the undefeated teams. I'm going to make good on that. Cut me off, Josh. Word from our partners. Let's go right now.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
I tried to talk to you about this.
There it is.
I tried to talk to you about this.
We were both right and we were both wrong. Can we be explicitly clear about this?
No.
You had Nebraska winning in a blowout, which did not happen, and covering, which did not happen. I had Michigan State winning outright, which did not happen. I did have Sparty covering. That did happen, by the way. So that one's on me. I was wrong.
I don't get caught up in the little numbers. You can get caught up in the little numbers if you want to.
Facts, results. Why should those matter, right?
You can play around with your little numbers if you want to.
Little numbers. Dude, all you do is look at KenPom every day. I don't want to hear about you don't get caught up in that little numbers.
You can keep referencing your little numbers if you want to. Me, only thing I remember about Friday morning's episode is that I was in the woods. That was fun. And I was certain Pinnacle Bank would prevail again. Then I spent the day with my family, won a couple of paintball wars, not bragging, but won a couple of paintball wars. Settled back into the house. My wife said, "Hey, you want to watch Welcome to Derry?" I said, "Baby, maybe another time." But tonight we focused on Peacock and Pinnacle Bank. It was a fun night. True story.
Really yeah. True
story. My wife was getting sleepy. She wasn't as fired up about Nebraska, Michigan State as I was. So at some point she lays down, lays down on the couch next to me. And I said, I whispered, I know. I knew how that was sounding as it came out of my mouth. There was nothing to it other than my wife was sleepy. I promise. That's it.
Like, oh yeah, let's go.
My wife was sleepy. That was all it was. And she put her head down. It was maybe like 7 minutes to go in the game. And she put her head down. And I said, hey, I know you're sleepy and I know you're falling asleep, but if this goes the way I think it's going to go, I'm going to have to pull out my computer in a minute because I got all sorts of clips I got to start getting out there into the world. So at that point, she was clearly cheering for Michigan State.
Of course.
She had to wake up. I had to start popping off. That was a fun Friday night, man. I wish I could do it again.
The double entendres in the past 90 seconds are just ridiculous. Let's keep it moving. Nebraska, 14-0.
Yep.
Best start in school history. 18 straight wins. Best in school history. 2-0 now all time. It's only had 2 games ever. I mentioned this on the Friday show. 2 games ever where it has hosted a top 15 matchup here and in 91 against Kansas. So it's won both of those. Really an enjoyably ugly game. In all seriousness, Nebraska should have won this thing by like 14 points. Michigan State went through like an 8-minute stretch in the second half where it was turning it over, couldn't hit a shot. Nebraska refused to bloat its lead, but they get the win. And not only did they get the win 58-56, this was the first time ever under Hoiberg Nebraska won when it didn't get to 60. It was 0-25 in those scenarios before Friday night. But the defense showed up again, as it's done way more often than not this season. 10 of the 14 times it's played this season, under a point per possession for the team that's going up against Nebraska, including 6 of the last 7. It's done a tremendous job. It forced Michigan State into 19 turnovers, including Fierce, who had a turnover off his foot in a big moment. They coughed it up. I thought that was in one of like 5 or 6 sequences in the final 2 minutes that ultimately led to the Huskers getting it done and getting out of there with a win. Held Michigan State to a season low, 56 points. Held Michigan State to just 34% from the field. Rink Mast was a madman in the first half, finished with 19.7 boards, 3 assists, 3 blocks. What a gamer that guy is. So I want to talk about all the undefeated teams, but Nebraska getting yet another win and just re-emphasizing its credentials is awesome. Our live chat here on Sunday is which of these 2 undefeated teams, which you don't expect to ever see undefeated at this point in the calendar, and Nebraska had never been, and Vandy's only done it once. Who do you trust more? Which undefeated team between Vanderbilt and Nebraska? Nebraska is winning this 69-31, which is interesting because Nebraska's been really good. I think that's based on the opponents it's defeated, because the predictives right now would tell you Vanderbilt is the more trustworthy team. But our live audience says Nebraska. What about you? In all seriousness, all Pinnacle jokes aside, of these 2, which do you trust more to be the better seed on Selection Sunday?
At this point, I'd probably say Vandy.
Mm-hmm.
Probably say Vandy, not just because, but I mean, they look awesome. The only thing missing from the Vandy story is, and they've got the win over Alabama, and they've got the win at Purdue, and they got the win over something like that. But everything else is there. And so I think probably Vandy, but these are two terrific stories. On Nebraska, just know if we're still talking about undefeated Nebraska next Sunday night, it's been an incredible week, because they're 2 road week at Ohio State on Monday and then at Indiana on Saturday. Projected underdogs in both of those games. Mm-hmm. So Nebraska goes from 14-0 to 16-0. We're cooking. But if you're a Nebraska fan, hey, let me make you a Nebraska fan right now.
Let's do it. I'm open to it.
Okay. Would you take 15-1 through 6 games right now?
Oh, of course. Yeah. If it's that simple, yes. Or what? Or just gamble and say, can we get to 16-0? You're taking 15-1. You split the next 2. You're still in a great spot. If that's you're still 4-1 in the league at that point, and you will have played 3 roadies in Big Ten play. Remember, you've already got the reason why our chat responded it did for anyone that's not a Nebraska fan and dialed in week by week. Nebraska now owns the win over Michigan State. It won at Illinois, had a 30-point win over Wisconsin, 21-point win, rivalry one over Creighton, has a neutral court win over an Oklahoma team that might be good enough to make the NCAA tournament. The resume is stronger from Nebraska's end at this point. The metrics still favor Vandy.
All right, let's keep it in the Big Ten. We'll go to undefeated Michigan. They are number 1 in the top 25 and 1, have been for roughly a month. Beat USC Friday night 96-66 to improve to 13-0. Marius Johnson got 29 points, and the Wolverines made history, becoming the first team in AP poll history to win 3 straight games against ranked opponents by at least 30 points each. Like in all the years we've been watching ranked teams play other ranked teams, that had never happened. It's just another little bullet point connected to Dusty May's team that suggests that they're operating on a different level than most, and perhaps a different level than everybody, because as of this morning, they have the highest net rating at KenPom. Obviously, they're number 1 in all the computers, but it's the second highest net rating. Let me rephrase. Duke once finished with a net rating above 40. I think it was 1999. That is the best net rating any team's ever finished with at KenPom in the history of the database, that I believe goes back to 96, 97. Yep. And right now, if you just said, boom, season over, that's Michigan's net rating, it would be the second best ever. So they are, if they're not operating on a different level than everybody, they're certainly operating on a different level than most.
They are operating on a different level than everyone at this point. not even halfway home. It's asking them to keep up this pace. It's not unreasonable, I guess, but they've been insane. They'll be number 2 again, I would think, when the poll refreshes for the first time in 2 weeks on Monday. And with that, I am prepared to declare that this is the best second-ranked team in the first week of January in the history of the sport. Arizona's got the resume, the victims and all that, and to have a claim at number 1, you can pop in here, JP. I'm just saying, like Arizona, I do not expect Arizona to fall. Hasn't lost, demolished Utah on the road, picked up a road win over the weekend. Like, there's, for anyone that wanted to keep Arizona number 1, I just don't think they're gonna drop down. I could be wrong. Michigan keeps piling up these wins, but I don't expect those teams to switch spots.
The only thing I was going to say is, thinking back, is it 2020, 21? Because at this point, we would have still had undefeated Baylor.
Yeah,
Baylor number 2 in the AP poll.
In Gonzaga. True.
Gonzaga 1, Baylor 2.
Better.
This Michigan team's better than national champion Baylor?
Yes, I would take this Michigan team over that Baylor team. Yes. Yeah, this Michigan team is better than that Baylor team right now, for sure. Where Michigan is at this point in the season versus where Baylor was the first week of January.
To his face. Yeah. You say it to his face.
I will. Did you ever text Scott Drew that highly inappropriate text we were going to do in the middle of the show? You ever send that or no?
Just decided to go out and ruin college basketball. Yep. First weekend of 2026. You say it to Scott Drew's face.
Did you send the text, yes or no?
I did not know.
Loser.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
You say it to Scott Drew's face. You think this Michigan team is better than his national championship team at Baylor. If you're going to say it, you say it to his face.
His national championship at Baylor didn't even finish ahead of Gonzaga in the final rankings. Lest you forget, my friend.
Say it to his face if you want to.
I've got the same book in my eye. For anyone that's listening, which again is the majority of people who take this podcast, Parrish has been holding up the Road to Joy in front of the camera for about 90 seconds now. I got my own book. Not behind me right now. It's somewhere over there, but I'm all good. I'm not going to say it to the face there.
You won't say it to his face?
That's not his face.
That's
It's
his
face. You know what I'm saying?
That's Scott Drew's face.
Michigan 13-0. Yaxel Lindenborg, I'm told, is just fine. He left the game, didn't play the final 15 minutes. They didn't need him. He got kicked in the shin. He'll be good to go. So if I don't know if Dusty has provided an update as of us doing this podcast, but I checked in on that late Friday and was told he is good to go. Michigan just continues to pace, to destroy fools. And I don't know when they're catching. They didn't even play. This was like a B- game. They shot poorly, had some foul trouble. Didn't matter. 96-66. What do you want? They're probably disappointed they didn't hit a Hyundai again. You want to keep it moving, Arizona and Iowa State?
I should point out a gift from the scheduling gods. Guess who doesn't have to go to Pinnacle Bank this season?
Michigan?
That's right.
That's their only scheduling break. If you actually, Michigan's they've got to go to Purdue.
Yes.
To Michigan State.
Correct.
To Illinois. Michigan State's obviously a rivalry game, so that's a 2-play.
To Iowa, I believe.
Yeah, and those aren't return games. So so their only scheduling break is not going to Pinnacle Bank, but otherwise it's not tilted that heavily in their favor, which is a tad ironic considering just how great they are. Arizona and Iowa State continue to be undefeated. Arizona rolled Utah, as I mentioned. Iowa State discards West Virginia. Just worth noting in the segment here, because they're still undefeated and still continuing a pace, and Joshua Jefferson still looks awesome. Any quick notes on them before we dash it out a little mid-major love?
Well, so Arizona and Iowa State, both undefeated, both out of the Big 12. Arizona favored in every game going forward, according to KenPom, even at Houston, at BYU, at Kansas, at Baylor.
At Baylor.
Iowa State favored in every remaining game going forward until they play at Arizona on March 2nd. So, this is shaping up to be an awesome conference race. And we haven't even mentioned Houston because they're not one of the undefeated teams. Right. Like Houston could obviously very reasonably win that league, even though they're not part of this conversation. I would just say that, Momcilovic, 26 points in this one. All 5 starters at Iowa State are now averaging double figures in points. So I just love the recipe that they put together. We've talked about this before. We can move on. But 3 returning starters, a transfer portal plug and play, and an international prospect who projects as a future NBA guy. Like that's the starting lineup. It fits together well. They are all 5 averaging double figures, and TJ Otzelberger's going to keep a streak of never missing the NCAA tournament at Iowa State alive pretty easily.
Yeah, no, good stuff out of them. And we'll see if that Iowa State Arizona game in the start of March, we'll see if whether or not that's got, projected 1 seed consequences hanging in the balance or not. We could have a pretty crowded race for the ones. I'm interested to see how that grows over the next 2 months. Let's talk Redhawks. 15-0, 12-0 against D1 opponents. I think about 12 minutes ago, you kind of just tossed in there that they were expected to be good. They weren't expected to be the best team in the league, maybe not the second best team.
Okay. This is all I'm basing it on. Wally Zerbiak texting me throughout the offseason.
An objective observer, a reliable narrator.
No, all I remember is Wally was when we tried to predict in the preseason. This is hand to heart true. When we did the pod of the preseason where we tried to predict the last undefeated team, I think I went with UCLA.
Wrong.
Do you remember who you went with?
Yeah, Michigan.
Damn.
Yeah.
I wish you would have said somebody different, like Eastern Michigan or something. Here's what Wally said. He listened to that episode and he said, "Hey, you know who really might be the last undefeated team in the country?" And I said, "Who, Wally?" And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes, look at the schedule. Nobody would play them." I said, "Okay." I put it back here in the back of my head, and now here we are.
They're looking great. Josh is telling us Akron 11 first place votes. Miami University, the Redhawks had 2 first place votes in the preseason MAC poll. They were expected to be good. No one thought they were good.
I don't pay attention to the MAC poll. I just listen to Wally. Whatever Wally says.
Yeah,
I didn't see the MAC poll. I just listen to Wally.
Nevertheless,
I don't look at MAC polls. I just look at Wally Zerbiak text. So regardless of what the MAC poll said, the text message I got said, "Keep an eye on Miami, Ohio. They could be the last undefeated team." And now here we are.
15-0. Really impressive. Got it done against those very same Zips over the weekend. What are your further impressions of this team outside of what may or may not have been told to you by Wally?
I have 0 impressions about this team other than what Wally has told me about this team. But in all seriousness, just some numbers. 99th Ken Palm. So they're nowhere close to getting a number by their name in any sort of traditional way. They've got 3 of
that shouldn't be the case, by the way. They objectively have one of the 30 best resumes in all of college basketball. They should be knocking on the door of being ranked right now. You look at the resume-based stuff that they have done, they are very close to having one of the 25 best resumes in the sport by getting to this point at 15-0.
Perhaps. It ain't the way I would do it.
Fair enough. They will receive votes in Monday's poll. I would rank them, but I understand why they won't be. But they're not. If you think they're not close, they actually are, because most teams wouldn't get to this point at 15-0. That's all.
Okay, let me rephrase.
Wally, I know you're listening 9 days after this podcast publishes. Who's standing up for your team now, huh? That's what I want.
Okay. Let me rephrase. They might be close to the AP poll. I have no control over that. They're not close to the top 25 and 1. They're 99th at Ken Palm. 3 of the 15 wins are over non-D1 teams. They've got 5 more against teams in the 300s. Only 1 top 100 win, and that is the win this weekend over Akron. By the way, Akron is the only other top 100 team in the MAC, and Miami doesn't have to go to Akron. They're done with them now until the conference tournament, perhaps.
That's a hell of a break.
Yeah, so they're done. They're favored in every game going forward, just like Michigan, just like Arizona. So they could take this 0 in the loss column deep. I mean, they could really reasonably be the last undefeated team in college basketball. And don't hold me to what I've already said. I'll reevaluate when I need to reevaluate. But both of these things I think are true right now. I could easily see Miami, Ohio being the last undefeated team. And I could see them being that and then looking on that same day hey, and that's it. Everybody's lost except Miami, Ohio. And then I look at the top 25 and 1 and I go, yeah, they're still not here. There's just, it's an awesome story, but if you put them on a neutral court against any team in the top 25 and 1, they would be pretty significant underdogs.
Correct. But a top 10 team from 3-point range this season, top 5 from the foul line. They've got some good indicators that this is a real legit Cinderella candidate. Interested to see how far Travis Steele can take them. If you've lost track, yes, that is former Xavier coach Travis Steele. gotten a great second lease on life there in the MAC. Good to see. And one of the 7 unbeatens here, and the rare mid-major to get to, second week of January without a scratch. Plenty more to get to, by the way. Pretty bulky weekend, GP. You want to take one more break and then dive into the most notable results?
I do, but I want to get us on the record before we get to the weekend whip around. The last team to lose a game this season will be what team?
Well, I think we find ourselves in the position where you have to change your answer from the preseason. I don't, right?
I think that's true. And I was going to change mine to yours, but I don't want to copycat you.
Well, you're welcome.
I want to be able to root against you. No, I want to root against you.
Okay. Well, I'm sticking with Michigan. I feel very good about the Michigan pick.
Okay. I do have Michigan at 20-0 heading to Michigan State. And if you're 20-0 heading to Michigan State, that might be good enough to make you the last undefeated team. But I'm going with Miami, Ohio. Wally told me to.
Trying to have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
That's what's happening right now.
That's the way I like it.
You want that cake?
I do want that cake. I would like to eat the cake too. Hey, you want to do the weekend whip around?
It is a loaded one. I say
our little buddy Braden Smith set a record this weekend. Let's discuss it next. First, though, pay my bills. Get some words from partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ. Streaming free anywhere you are.
It's time for the weekend whip around. Saturday night. This is a big primetime game. Network television. Purdue 89, Wisconsin 73. Braden Smith made history. 14 points, 12 assists. That gives him 893 assists in his career. He is now the Big Ten's all-time assist leader, breaking a record previously held by former Michigan State star Cassius Winston.
Yeah. You know what I got to do to myself here?
Ooh.
I got to buzz me. In the preseason, you're going to be right. Preseason.
Oh, wow. I didn't think I was right about anything in the preseason. I can't wait to hear this.
Preseason, I'm pretty sure you said that he'd break the record, Bobby Hurley's assist record, and I said no.
Right.
Conservatively, if he can average 9, which is below his current average, and Purdue loses in the Big Ten semis and only makes the Sweet 16, and he averages 9, he's going to break it. That's not a Big Ten title game run. That's not making the Final Four. I think he's going to do it. He is pretty big acclaim over the weekend, and deservedly so. They win 89-73 at Wisconsin. It's not close. If they get to 20 games and he averages 9 a game, Braden Smith is going to be the all-time leader in assists overall for a career, and that's pretty awesome and pretty outstanding. Any quick thoughts on Braden before I got a couple notes on Purdue, but I wanted to at least give him some shine at the top of the third block here because he is. He's maybe becoming underrated again because of how amazing the freshmen are. That was one of my biggest takeaways of the weekend is, are we getting to the spot where we are underrating how good of a college player he is again? Because I think we're drifting into that territory.
Wait till you see when we do the podcast asking this question. Big, bold letters. Josh is going to type them. Is Braden Smith even the best point guard in the Big Ten? Because Bennett Sturt's going to get that one going in a minute.
Maybe. I don't know. He's a really good player, but right now I think Smith is commanding in the lead in the way that he plays.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying I could see it. I could see it getting there. I'm not arguing with you.
You're saying we should toss up one of those just, hair deep thumbs that just trigger everyone, just completely overreaction, just to fire up the angry YouTube viewers.
I think that's the way you're supposed to do it. I think that's what they.
Josh has messaged us that he will never type that.
I'll type it for him. I'll get it in there. I'll give you some numbers. Bobby Hurley holds the record, of course, 1,076. So Braden Smith is now 183 assists behind Bobby Hurley. He's averaging right now 9.6 assists per game. At that rate, 9.6. He needs 20 more games.
Yeah.
Purdue has 17 more in the regular season.
Yep.
So he's got to stay healthy. And they've got to play probably deep into the Big Ten tournament and probably, we'll see, but might have to make a little bit of a run in the NCAA
They need
tournament.
two in each bracket, and he gets there because they'll be auto slotted into the quarters.
Right.
So win the quarterfinal and then win the semis, and then get into the Sweet 16. And then I think you're comfortably there. If you tell me they play 6 postseason games, no matter how they happen, he's definitely breaking the record.
Yeah, because he would at 9.6, he needs 20 to eclipse it. With 6 postseason games, he's at 23 games.
Yeah, and then he needs like eight and barely change, I think, in that scenario.
Yeah. So I thought he would get there in the preseason. Wally told me he thought that too, so that was reassuring. And he's on pace to do it. He's on pace to do it.
Might have to fact check that. Lost in some of this is the fact that Purdue has the best offense in the sport because of Braden Smith primarily. They're now at 129.2 points per 100 possessions adjusted for competition. Best in all of men's college hoops. They've won 5 straight games, have Purdue, by an average of 26.6 points. Really, really, really good team. Wisconsin's going the other way. 0-3 versus ranked teams this season. Lost by 28 against BYU. Lost by 30 against Nebraska. Lost by 16 here. 0-4 in quad 1 games. 9-1 in all others. Bucky's chances at making the big dance very much up for debate as we get ready for the second week of 2020.
Can I take you down to Orlando?
Let's do it.
Central Florida 81, Kansas 75. I guess the story is UCF is 12-1.
I think that is the prime. It's the 1A to the 1B that we also have to talk about.
Yeah, so let's start there. UCF 12-1, lone loss to undefeated Vanderbilt, so nothing bad in the loss column. Now got wins over Kansas and Texas A&M. That's not great, but it's enough to get you in the top 25 and 1. I moved them all the way up to 19. UCF ahead of Kansas right now. I think UCF has a better resume than Kansas right now.
I think that is objectively the case at this point after what happened in Orlando. And the bigger picture here is Johnny Dawkins was not expected to be the coach this season, whether it was a retirement of his own accord or a gentle force out behind the scenes. It just never happened. And now look at him, 12-1, and in the midst of his best season ever. UCF only has one other tournament run under him. It's when they almost took out Zion and co. in the tournament back in 2019. Riley Kugel has found a place where he can thrive. He had 19 in this game. The team in general just played composed, unintimidated, which was especially interesting considering what happened in the first half, which we're going to get to in just a second. But good on you, Knights. You know, we are not shy on some really good, surprising storylines in this sport this season. We've talked about a few of them on this very show. Put UCF near the top of the list. Don't know if this is going to be a team that's of 4, 5, 6 seed quality. I think that's still to be determined. But you had Kansas come to your place, took care of business. You get the win. That's mighty impressive. Now, they were unintimidated despite the fact that Darryn Peterson had 23 in the first half, and then he finishes with 26 and 6 boards. Was, reliable from deep again. Only got, 5 minutes in the second half, sat for the final, however long that was, 12 and change or whatever it was there. I just, where do we go with the story, GP?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
It is. Kansas fans got to be out of their minds on this. It's all the more frustrating because there's so much happening with this story. You see him play, and it's like, damn, dude, that really might be the best player in the sport. He can't stay on the floor. And yet, even despite of that, it's like Melvin Council grows into the second coming of Jordan once Darryn Peterson can no longer play in the game. It's weird. They could have won the game without him if he had been available on the floor. All credit to UCF and how it played. If Darryn Peterson's on the floor, I don't think UCF wins the game. I've got a couple quotes from Self. You may well have them as well. Yeah. But we only found out afterward that Peterson was on a minutes restriction, which is not like this big stunning news. But when you lose the way you lose, and then the information is passed along after the fact, it's why KU fans, I'm not going to say, although some of them are about to, and however they're listening to this on their runs, in their cars, are about to dispute what I might say, some of you. I'm not going to say they're fed up with the Darryn Peterson stuff because you're going to take him any way you can get him. But this is an absolute roller coaster ride. And as we do this show here on Sunday night, KU's got a game less than 48 hours from now, and it's to be determined whether or not he's even going to play in the game.
The whole thing's weird. And you're exactly right. Like, where do you go with this? on some level, this should be the A block of a college basketball podcast this weekend. The projected number one pick is unbelievable for a half and then sidelined again. But we've talked about that every other week.
Fifth time? No joke. Fifth time now on the show that has come up.
I don't have anything new to say about it. My first attempt at discussing this was like, hey, everybody just calm down. It's a soft tissue injury. And, I talk about the Memphis Grizzlies every day. Have you seen the injury report? It ain't nothing but soft tissue injuries. And so this is just the way these things are handled when basketball players are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and Kansas happens to have one who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So it is what it is. The only thing I ever push back on with any sort of energy was stop it with he doesn't want to play. Of course he wants to play. That's why he enrolled. It's why he practices. It's why he puts the uniform on. It's why he's been in games. He wants to play. It's just his body is breaking down on him for weird reasons. And then here we are again in the second half. And so afterward, Bill mentions the minutes restriction, but never put a number on it to my knowledge. And then, I wasn't in the rooms able to answer the follow-up questions, but like he played 18 minutes in the first half. So if you're on a minute restriction, why are you playing 18 minutes in the first half? Like nobody knows more about minutes restrictions than I do. We're talking about the Grizzlies every day. The whole team lives on a minutes restriction. All right. Let's just say that for the sake of the conversation, the minutes restriction was the number that he hit, which was 23. And I don't know that to be true, but like you would. How about this? Forget that number. Whatever the minute restrictions is, it's got to be less than 40. And he played 18 in the first half. And I know that was because of foul trouble and other things. And Bill said after the game, he felt like he had to keep him on the court. Plus he's cooking. So let him go. No. Yeah. I mean, he's killing. He's 23 points at the half. But then perhaps because he played 18 minutes in the first half, I guess there's no way to know this, but his body started bothering him again. His legs started bothering him. I think that was the quote from Bill. His legs are bothering him.
The exact quote is, among a few of them, to reporters, quote, that's been a concern that his legs feel differently in the second half. And a lot of that, I think, today was just based on if I could have played him less in the first half, would he have been more available in the second half? And I think the answer is probably yes, end quote.
I know. That's just
throwing their phones again their houses and apartments and
so do you
fields as they're driving through. Yeah, it's wild.
Now let's make sure we're on the same page here, because I've heard other people talk about this and seen people tweet about it, and I don't know that everybody is interpreting the situation the same way. So let's make sure we are, and if not, let's try to get on the same page. When Bill says minutes restriction, let me ask you this: do you believe Darryn Peterson didn't play in the final 10 minutes because of a minutes restriction, or because his legs were bothering him? Because here's what I think these things are getting conflated. I think Bill said he was going to be on a minutes restriction, but then like we had to really play him in the first half for a variety of reasons. And I think because we played him so much in the first half, it might have caused problems in the second half. But if the question is, why didn't Darryn Peterson close the game? It's not because we had already hit the minutes restriction and he was not allowed to go back in, as much as his legs were bothering him. What do you make of all that?
This is a riddle wrapped inside an enigma, put inside of a mystery. I mean, I'm guessing it's because of how he was feeling.
That's what I assumed.
Is it a weird ass visual to see this dude just pop back in after a hiatus? And it's like, that's why some people can't get off the idea that it's him that's the number one pick in the draft. And then they're caught in this big game on the road, competitive, and every 2 minutes there's a camera shot to him just sitting on the bench. It's like, man,
it's tough. I understand the frustration from Kansas fans. I'm not telling you not to be frustrated. I would be. I'm frustrated. I don't even care. But I'm just frustrated having to talk about this all the time. But yeah, I just push back on the idea that it's anything other than his legs are bothering him. Like Darryn Peterson's not a dumb dude. He knows what the reaction is and what it's been and what it was going to be before he sat and watched the rest of the game. He knows what people are going to say about that. I just refuse to believe that he doesn't want to play or that it's anything other than his legs are bothering him. And I wish they would stop. I wish they would stop bothering him.
We can, we're going to talk about this again on Wednesday because either he's going to play or he's not. And it will be, we'll have something to say about it again, so we can keep it moving. There's still plenty to get to.
Yeah, but just I didn't realize this until I read it. But I thought this was interesting. Michael Swain at 24/7 Sports had this in a piece that he wrote about it. Darryn Peterson has only played in the final 4 minutes of a game this season once. Mm-hmm. Kansas has played 15 games. He's appeared in 5. Hasn't been able to finish the last 2 he's appeared in. And if you just final 4 minutes of any of these 15 games, the only time he's been on the court for any of them is in the final minutes against North Carolina. Outside of that, they have to finish games without him, without exception. That's tough. And it's tough in multiple ways. It's tough because you're playing without your best player. That's never ideal. But then when your best player comes back, it just, I don't want to say it messes up anything, but it changes everything. It changes everything.
Yeah.
And that in and out of the lineup stuff can it just really can make it difficult for a team to ever find its rhythm. I feel like I've said this 17 times this season. I hope this is the last time we talk about this, but I'm starting to wonder whether that's even a smart thing to say because we keep talking about this.
Yeah. Speaking of Carolina, it loses, and not only does it lose, it was caught in a good game, and then suddenly it just let go of the rope, and SMU was doing a great job pulling on the other end of it. 97-83. The Ponies get their first ranked win as a program since 2022. They have now had 95 plus has SMU in 3 straight games for the first time since 1976. Spirit of 76. Hello, let's go. Shouts to Ween. Boopie Miller, he's getting more love. We had some people write in recently say, can't believe you guys don't talk about Boopie more. Boopie's going to get talked about weekly at this point. Had 27 and 12 in this game, the 12 being dimes, shot better than 75% from the field in doing so. He was the first player, shouts to CBS Sports Research for this outstanding nugget, the first player in the last 30 years with at least 25 points, 12 assists, and 75% shooting against a ranked opponent. He was big time. SMU hit 14 threes again in this game. It's the first time in the history of the program it's gone back-to-back with at least 14 triples. Andy Enfield doing one hell of a job. He left USC under just some quasi-weird cadences and circumstances to take the SMU job. They get thrown into the ACC. What is this even going to be? Right now, SMU is a really, really good team. And it's a ranked team. GP's got them ranked. They're going to be in the rankings when they refresh on Monday. Ponies sit here at 12-2 and got a validating win. Carolina was holding teams under 62 a game in the 7 games prior, all of those Carolina wins. And then SMU says, F that, we're going for 97 on your head. It's a long road for Carolina in January, GP. They've got 5 road games. This was the first of 5. And I thought the win was really, really, as I said, validating for SMU to get this win and vault itself into the national conversation.
So that's 2 straight with Blue Bloods losing on the road. Let's do another one. Alabama 89, Kentucky 74. UK now 9-5 with a $22 million payroll. Now I kept them in the top 25 and 1. And then I got called dumb over and over again by people on Twitter. But here's my argument. The 5 losses are to Louisville, Michigan State, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Alabama. The 5 losses.
Loss volume has to matter, though. I mean, I get that. But at some point, how many do they have to lose before they get booted out for a team that might have 1 or 2? That's all.
For me, as long as your losses are to nothing but teams ahead of you, you're fine in my book, period.
I mean, I would push back on that. I wouldn't have Kentucky ranked. They're not going to be ranked tomorrow. Their wins over Indiana and St. John's. They don't have any wins of real value at this point.
2 top 30 wins.
Honestly,
no, 2 top 30 wins.
Those are not. St. John's isn't a projected.
You cannot on the same podcast say Miami, Ohio's top 30, but Kentucky can't be top 25.
I absolutely can. In fact, okay, let's see where Kentucky is right now. Miami, Ohio, in strength of record is 25. Kentucky is 47. Kentucky is behind Miami, Ohio at KPI. It's behind Miami, Ohio at wins above bubble. Resume-wise, yes, Kentucky does not have as good of a resume right now as Miami, Ohio. That's what the numbers say. So
that's what those numbers say. But
and those numbers are important. They're not just breaking it down into quad 1, quad 2, which can sometimes have an arbitrary line of delineation. I'm not going to lose a wink over sleep over this. I honestly don't think Kentucky as a top 25 team is justifiable heading into Monday. And I don't think you'd find a Kentucky fan that would disagree with me on that.
Well, I'm sure you could find one.
Maybe one. But like St. John's, we're going to get to them in a second. St. John's is crap. Indiana has proven itself as an NCAA tournament team to this point. And this is the guy. I am the guy who had Kentucky top 3 in the country heading into the season, who believed in Kentucky to turn a corner after getting the wins over Indiana and St. John's. And I'm still not ready to bail on this team because you had to open up SEC play on the road against a really good Alabama team that got Phylon back. So we'll see if this is truly just early league play, road team, could be one of the 10 best teams in the country. Maybe we look back and it's not a big deal. I want to see what Kentucky can do over the next 2 weeks and see if they truly can level up here. But quite clearly, it can't just be like Lowe was good. Quaintance was sort of neutralized in this game. It was way more about Alabama than Kentucky. Always showed up. He played well. I want to give credit to, and I know you got more in this, but I do want to give credit to Sea of Blue writer Dylan Ballard, because he had a really good note that I didn't realize. Credit to him. This is when you have people that cover the team on a day in, day out basis. They pay attention to this stuff. Jalen Lowe, Otega Owe, Cam Williams, Mohamed Diabate, and Jaden Quaintance played most of the second half in the St. John's win, including a 10-0 run that helped flip the game in Kentucky's favor. Against Alabama, they were on the floor for 1 minute combined in this game. Now, Cam Williams was a non-factor, having a couple of really good games, so I don't know his involvement or not. But Pope is finding himself running into an issue that Cal would have sometimes. Like Kentucky fans, you probably feel like you can't get out of this nightmare to certain where it comes to like, okay, what are the rotations that we're clearly seeing benefits from, and why aren't our coaches going to them more? Well, right here, we saw real evidence of one that had been working and wasn't utilized over the weekend.
I agree with you. That is interesting. I'd be more interested in knowing just the Lowe, Diabate, Quaintance combination, just those three, because I think those are the perhaps the three most important. How many minutes were they on the court together? Because to me, at the CBS Sports Classic, that was my column. In the second half, those three appeared on the court together for the first time all season, and that's when things took off. Then obviously you didn't get that in the subsequent game because Lowe didn't play, but then you had an opportunity for that on Saturday, and either they didn't use it enough or it didn't work well because they got embarrassed. I would just, bottom line, then we'll move on because it ain't that important. But forget Kentucky and forget what you think about St. John's. And I'm not even disagreeing about St. John's. I hate that team more than any team I've ever hated in my life. But just, you have 2 top 30 KenPom wins, and every loss is to a team ranked ahead of you in the top 25 and 1. I got no problem ranking that team. That makes sense in my head. You've got 2 top 30 wins and no losses to anybody below you. That makes sense to me. Plus the computer numbers, like they're still 24th at KenPom. They still have the metrics to at least some.
I don't disregard that as well. I
some metrics to back it up. Let's not sit here and argue about rankings. Let's stay in the. Yeah.
Hold on. Can we at least give Bama some love real quick, though? They've won 4 in a row against Kentucky for the first time in program history. Aiden Holloway had a really, really nice game. I don't want to make the Kentucky result all about the Kentucky side. I thought that Nate Oates' team showing up and getting it done, because they can be a little bit unpredictable here. They had a really nice game plan, and I was impressed with the way that they were able to pull away and get it done. They had a freshman, Amari Allen, who stepped up, had 11, 9, and 3 in 31 minutes. I thought that was mighty impressive, and they took advantage of a trend that Kentucky's had this season. Kentucky is 1-4 when it doesn't play in its home building, and it's 1-5 now against ranked teams this season. Good on Bama. Huge game. We'll talk about it on Wednesday's show, but Vandy and Alabama took care of what they needed to set up really one of the more unexpected, highly anticipated matchups of January. That's all.
Yeah, with Alabama, when we did the dribble handoff a couple of weeks ago, it appeared the SEC was up for grabs. We asked who's going to win the SEC. I think 6 of us answered. There were 4 different answers. I went with Alabama, and obviously everything we saw this weekend suggests that that's a pretty reasonable pick. We'll see if it holds up, but absolutely Alabama, Vanderbilt on Wednesday, that could be a matchup of the 2 best teams in the SEC. Theoretically, that could be the game that determines the regular season championship. Elsewhere, the SEC, Arkansas 86, Tennessee 75. Story here, Darius Acuff, 29 points. He's now averaging 19.5 points, 6.0 assists. The latest likely one-and-done freshman point guard to star for John Calipari. The list goes back decades, and it is littered with multimillionaires, and looks like Darius Acuff's gonna be the next.
Yeah, Arkansas fans got to be thrilled because Tennessee had this program's number over the past 5-6 seasons, and Acuff put an end to that. He has had 24 points per game and almost 50% from beyond the three-point arc in his last 5 games, period. He showed up well against the ranked opponents, 18.6 points, 5.7 assists against ranked foes this season for Acuff. He is looking very much the part, very impressive, very smooth player, and was extremely impressed with how good he looked. And I actually thought it was notable that Arkansas, although it got the benefit of the venue, it had been shooting well from 3. It was like 46% in its previous 5 games. It was only 7 of 23 in this game, and yet still won with plenty of breathing room. I thought that was notable for sure. So a good win for the Hogs, and good on Calipari. On weekends like this, Kentucky stumbles. Cal's really got it going with Arkansas right now. The juxtaposition between those two entities is always going to be something worth bringing up when one is doing one thing and one is doing the opposite of that. What else you got from around the weekend?
Just one more from the SEC. Missouri 76, Florida 74. I think maybe in the SEC, the disappointing label gets attached to Kentucky because it's Kentucky and because it's 22 million. But, Florida, reigning champs, preseason top 10 team, now sitting here at 9-5. And the story continues to be the backcourt. I mean, Boogie Flan was 2 of 10. Xavier Lee, 4 of 10. They combined to go 3 of 13 from 3. These were their targets for lots of money in the transfer portal, and it's just not working out. Both are shooting below 40% from the field on the season. Go back to last season when they won the national championship with that trio of guards, Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, Will Richard. Every one of them dudes shot above 44% from the field. Now there are 2 primary guards that replace those guys, both below 40% from the field. It's obviously more complicated than that, but that's where the conversation starts with Florida's troubles.
And we have a big stretch here. So when I talked to Todd Golden after they lost at the Garden to UConn, he was, reasonably confident that their worst ball was behind them, and they'd actually been losing by close margins for the most part here. And I could see the vision. Now you go on the road, you play Missouri, you lose by 2. It's a forgivable offense, but you're home against Georgia. We'll get to the Dogs before we get out of this podcast. Home against Tennessee, at Oklahoma, at Vandy in your next 4. If we're going to think Florida is going to be able to be in that, not just SEC contender, but can you actually play yourself into, like right now, some predictors still have this as a top 15 team. If you're going to be that or knocking on the door of top 10 status, to me, it's a non-negotiable 3-1 in the next 4 minimum. We'll see if they can do that. Missouri, I thought that was, 11-3. They hadn't played since they were lambasted by Illinois in the bragging rights game. They get this done. It was an inspired effort to get to 11-3. When I see Florida play, like if Florida could clone Thomas Houck, they wouldn't lose a game. This dude does just everything right on the floor practically, and it was another really, really awesome game for him. I was really impressed by that. Late night Saturday, we had an incredible game on CBS Sports Network. I did not make it to the end. I'm curious, did you make it to the end of what went down out in San Diego on Saturday?
I was driving home from Lookout Mountain on Saturday, and I got home, took a shower, and we were in bed before the late night tips went officially final.
So on Saturday, I was taking in a ton of hoops, but we had to put down our dog in September, and we had been looking at some rescues, and Humane Society about 30 minutes from us had one up that I'd seen a couple days prior. I was like, maybe this one's got some potential. And so we drove out, rescued this pup. Josh, you can flash the pup on the screen if you want. It's the newest addition to our house. Cutie.
Give me a name. What's the name?
Okay, so we agreed.
Caleb, you did Caleb. I know you did. You can't.
I wasn't. My youngest wanted to name him Rome for Roma Dunze.
Okay.
we said, like, if we're going to do the name, we all have to be in agreement. Like, when we picked him up, he was Max, but Max is the most predictable dog name. And our in-laws had a dog they had to put down like a year and a half ago who was also Max. So it was just not going to be Max. And he'd only been Max for like 3 weeks since he was rescued by animal control. They brought him in, the whole deal. So we agreed, and I swear this is getting back to the San Diego State Boise State game. We agreed that all 4 of us had to agree on the name. Well, that's a disaster. Anyone that has taken a dog, had children, everyone except my wife was in on Leo. Everyone except one of my sons was in on Ringo. Big Beatles family. Couldn't do that. So I was looking up just like interesting dog names, and I was like, what do you, and I honestly, I just tossed it out. I was like, I don't hate this, but what do you guys think? And I threw out Bentley, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. So that is Bentley Norlander. Chill dog, kind of shy, ton of fun, loves to play in the snow, good stuff. But he likes to cuddle, which I love. So I was fading because I just have done everything with this dog, trying to watch all these games over the course of 8 to 10 hours. And I was fading. And he woke me. He kind of like startled me as I had the San Diego State Boise State game on my TV. And I'm not kidding, GP, with maybe like 15 seconds to spare, I see the back and forth of the game in regulation almost. And both teams had their chances, didn't go in. I was like, okay, I'm kind of invested here. And then I got to take this dog out like once every. My wife's already taken him out since we started this podcast because you got to house break him, the whole thing. He's peed on the rug 3 times already. It's a disaster, but we welcome the dog edition. Long story, way too long. I missed the end of this game because I was taking him outside, and he had to poop one more time before the night was done. Josh has the video from CBS Sports Network.
Pooping of your dog pooping. Let's watch a video of Norlander's new dog pooping.
He doesn't have that, but he has the end of how San Diego State got this win. Let's see this real quick.
79-77. Nato going strong. Fielder with the pockets to tie the game at 79. 10 seconds left. One timeout for San Diego State. Up the floor comes Davis. Racing in the lane. Shot on the way. No good. Tipped back out. This is Andrews for the win. Oh. Got it. Oh, he missed. Just.
Take a shot.
That was regulation. Josh, let me know if we've got the winner. I was trying to keep the pod moving. I don't know if he's got the winner or not. Do we not have the video?
Oh, my God. Couldn't we just showed a picture of your stupid dog and been like, oh, he's cute, and then moved on? Why'd you have to turn it into a big production? You got a big idea about tying your dog. You wanted to tie your dog. You wanted to tie your dog to San Diego State, Boise State. Now look at it. Now we're in a mess. We
don't have the winner. They won it. They won at the buzzer. Boise State was down 42-18 in this game. Got up 93-87 in the first overtime. BJ Davis stealing a 3 to get it done. Incredible job by San Diego State. And I love my new puck, who's apparently down.
Let me give you some advice. Best investment you can make. Doggy doors.
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
Incredible. You don't. Incredible.
That's where they go in and out, right?
Little Luca.
It's 15 degrees outside right now. Like, I know you don't have to worry about that in Memphis so much, but I don't know what that does to the heat situation in my den. That's all.
Doggy door goes from one doggy door goes from our home into our garage. Other doggy door out the garage into the backyard. He goes through 2 doggy doors. And I am telling you, and I'm not sure this makes me a good dog owner.
Yeah, he's a rescue, by the way, and one of the last things they told us was he will run and you will never see him again. You have to train him. He can't be off the leash. Like,
no, I got all that.
So
yeah, we lose our dog every 2 weeks. It's no big deal. But he goes. We've had, so in my life I've had 4 dogs: Mickey, Piper, Lola, and Luca. And Piper, Lola, Luca have all been in this house. And we put the doggy doors, and they taught each other. Like Piper taught Lola, Lola taught Luca, and we don't take our dog out. He goes when he needs to go, comes back in when he needs to come back in. We do not stress about got to take the dog out, got to go for a walk, got to do that. We don't. That's not a thing in our home. We've had dogs consistently here for 20 years, and we don't have to take them out because doggy doors are amazing. Unless The internet says they're not, and that's a rude thing to do to a dog. Then I take it all back. I love a doggy door.
I'm sure you. It's less work for you. Why wouldn't you not?
Yes.
Big time win in the Mountain West. The only one I'd give you, Seton Hall won dramatically on Sunday, near the buzzer, 56-54. Najee Hines, 3-point play, a second and change to go. 16-point comeback for the Pirates after only getting 18 points in the first half. Creighton led for 37 of the 40 minutes on the road in this game, was up 16 points in the second half. Hall fought hard, forced 2 jump balls in the final 14 seconds. They get it done, 13-2. Parrish, Seton Hall, rank them. Don't tell me you're going to rank Kentucky and not rank Shaheen Holloway's Pirates. Don't tell me that.
I'm literally right now in this moment ranking Kentucky and not ranking Seton Hall. I'm doing it right now.
Hate to see it.
I'm doing it right now.
Sorry, Pirates fans. I got your back.
What you need to get is some doggy doors. They're terrific.
Oh,
you can get them on Amazon.
I got to get an electric fence. That's what I got to get.
We tried to do one of those in our front yard because I think it was Piper way back when she was just going wild. And she would just run right through it. It was crazy. She would just run right. So I think we have the remnants of a electric fence in our front yard, but I don't know what happened. Doggy doors is where it's at.
Let's look ahead to the weekend, and then we can get out of here and go on with our Sunday nights. Monday, relatively slow.
Yeah, Nebraska at Ohio State. So,
but that's got to be dialed in. Road game, undefeated team. I'll be there. Right at tip.
And USC at Michigan State. So those are the 2 big ones, both in the Big Ten. On Tuesday, we got a doubleheader on CBS Sports Network. I will be in studio with Brent Stover, Wally Zerviak, and former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson. Looking forward to seeing Coach Avery in studio. George Washington at Dayton. Both those teams 2-0 in the A10. That'll be followed by UNLV at Wyoming. Elsewhere on Tuesday night, I mean, there's some good ones. Duke at Louisville.
Yep.
Probably game of the night. Georgia at Florida. St. John's at Butler. George Washington at Dayton. I mentioned that. Texas Tech at Houston. UCLA at Wisconsin. San Diego State at Nevada. What interest there?
Well, all right. Let's bing, bang, boom these. Louisville lost Friday at Stanford. Michael Brown Jr. hasn't played in 4 games in a row now because he has dealt with a lower back injury. So we have another high-profile freshman that hasn't been as available as desired. His team losing as a result of it on the road. Now Louisville welcomes in Duke, which won on CBS over the weekend. Cam Boozer had another really good game. Evans was 28 points, 18 in the second half. He was awesome. They got it done as expected. So now Duke's got to go on the road and play against Louisville. And I guess we wait and see on Brown's status if he's going to be good to go. I mean, I don't know if it's mandatory that he's on the floor if you're going to beat Duke, but oh boy, it certainly feels it. So hopefully his back is okay. But that's one of those results Friday night kind of slips through the cracks because first of all, it's Cardinals at Cardinal. And that was Stanford's first ever win over Louisville. I think they'd only played 4 or 5 times. Good win for Kyle Smith's program, but still looks weird as hell to see Louisville playing at that's sketchy. It's a league game. Nonetheless, it is a league game. Louisville took the loss there. Any quickie thoughts on that before I got a couple things on Georgia and a few other teams.
Obviously, you would want your one and done lead guard to be available, but I think that Louisville team, even without Brown, in that building with that crowd, they can win that game without Michael Brown. I don't know that I'll pick them to do it, but they can win that game without Michael Brown. Yeah.
In fact, hold on. Let me look up something real quick here. Duke has had some struggles as of late. Duke has allowed 53.7% shooting. This is a CBS Sports Research note, but nonetheless notable. Allowed 53.7% shooting or better in 3 straight games for the first time in more than 16 years. So from a defensive standpoint, has shown some vulnerabilities. We'll see on that. Georgia at Florida. That is Mike White coaching against his former team. We talked about Florida earlier in the pod. Georgia, 13-1 for the first time since 1930-31. The Dogs were 23-1 as a starter that season. How about Georgia? 103.1 points per game in the midst of this 7-game winning streak. It's averaging 99.4 for the season. That is the most points per game of any team in the sport. Jeremiah Wilkinson leads this team in scoring, 18.3 a night. He was awesome over the weekend in Georgia's game. I know Georgia has flown off the radar, understandably so. The only loss in overtime against Clemson in Charleston in the Charleston Classic, but they win 104-100 over the weekend against Auburn. The first truly notable win so far. So, the non-con schedule was atrocious. And now you go and play at Florida. I don't know if that'll lead. It probably won't lead the show on Wednesday. We'll talk about it regardless. Mike White might have a genuine squad, but best to reserve a little more judgment on where it lands overall because it just hasn't played a lot of good opponents. But nonetheless, 13-1. I'm not gonna shake a stick at that. And they pour it in. GP. That team is destined to win more than not this season. Really impressed by them. I don't know how much you got to see or not. I know you were driving home, but it was a really entertaining game against Auburn, and I thought an important win for Georgia's general psyche to make sure that it didn't lose its first notable game of the season.
I saw more of that game than I saw of anything because we were driving during the day. Stopped. I have an electric car, so we had to charge, and so we stopped in Huntsville.
Cybertruck, right? Yeah, you had to charge the Cybertruck, of course. Yep.
Do not have the Cybertruck, but it is electric. Got to plug it in, and so we, it's fun traveling with an electric car because you it's a part of the experience. Like, where are we charging, and what are we gonna do?
When's this gonna run out of battery? Woo-hoo.
No, but they put the chargers around stuff, and there's always somewhere to go and something to do or something to look at. And anyway, this was perfect for the boys because guess what was right next to the chargers? Dave and Buster's.
Oh, Dave and Buster's. There you go. Good spot.
So I watched Auburn, Georgia inside Dave and Buster's on a 5,000-inch television. And the way that it even got to overtime with the whole thing was just ridiculous. So, yes, I saw a lot of that game. I do have Georgia in the top 25 and 1 at number 26, one spot behind Kentucky. Obviously, you go win at Florida. I'll respect you a little more.
Okay. Fair enough. We can't get out of here with talking about Johnny's. They're playing at Butler.
I'm not talking about
Providence. They got out to a 13-0 lead in this game that Providence erased in the first half.
I'm not talking.
And erased a double-digit deficit with 14 and change to go. Outscored St. John's 8-1 in the final 2 minutes or so.
What are we doing? Why are we talking about this? I thought we were done.
Stefan Vax was awesome. Zuby Ejiofor, 33 and 15. Do I have that right? I'm double checking my notes here. Did he really go 33 and 15 in this game in the loss?
He definitely went 33.
I'll be damned. He did 33-15, 3 blocks, 2 steals, and 7 turnovers. Can we get our guy some help? I thought that's what the money's for. St. John's is 9-5, ranked 17th in Parrish's rankings as of Sunday.
I got him out of there. I got St. John's out of there. I'm disgusted. What are you doing, by the way? There's a certain pattern to this. We talk about what we're going to talk about. We take a break. We talk about something, and we take a break. We weekend whip around, and then we look ahead, and then we say bye, and we go watch the Grizzlies and Lakers. And you just wanted to be like, hey, and before we get out of here, did you see St. John's lose again, GP? I'm like, what do we do? It's like you're rubbing it in my face. I hate that team. I hate them. It's like you're.
Are they? Hold on. St. John's in Kentucky, right? But I guess you've already answered it. You got St. John's out of your ranking, and Kentucky's knocking on the door at top 20. So St. John's is the most disappointing team in college basketball this season, according to you. Actually, no. Genuine question. More disappointing. St. John's or Marquette, which is what, 5 and 10 now after losing at UConn on Sunday? Well, I think it's Marquette.
Well, I didn't think Marquette would be.
Yes or no? Because I thought, here's me. I'm owning myself as well. Okay. I had Marquette 25 in the preseason. I was so wrong. It's not even funny. And you had to have thought that Marquette was going to the tournament, right? Preseason.
I would have said tournament team, but not top 25 team. Tournament team, but not top. Tournament team because I respect what Shaka's built and done, and never missed it there. But not top 25 team because I got real questions about the roster. I didn't think they'd be good. I didn't think they'd be this bad. I thought St. John's would be great, and they stink.
Yeah.
In my mind, I know this isn't true, but in my mind, St. John's is the most disappointing team of all time.
Okay.
history of the sport, history of all sports.
We got some nominations for Florida in the chat. Not yet. Not compared to St. John. I understand it. Not compared to St. John's and not compared to Marquette. But yeah, GP had him number 1. You had St. John's preseason number 1.
Thanks. I wish everybody else would remember, like, everybody had them top 5. All I ever hear about.
I did not have St. John's top 5.
All I ever hear.
I had him number 10, and I also was extremely wrong. So, but I was less wrong than everyone else. I had Kentucky 3rd. I was wrong. You got to own it. It's what it is.
I am owning it, but I'm tired of owning it by myself. I wish some other people would own it.
You wear this. That's the responsibility that comes with off-season rankings.
Damn.
And if St. John, are you kidding me right now? If St. John's was the number 1 team in the country, every single podcast would open on St. John's.
That's right.
Yes.
You're
doing the thing with the cake again.
I'd like to do the thing.
You're doing
That's
the thing.
what I like to do.
You want to have your cake and eat it too. That idiom has been explained to me, I think, at least 4 times in my life. I still don't understand its origin or what it means. I'm gonna have to look it up again. Because if you're having your cake, aren't you eating it? I think it's one of those sayings where that's become the saying, but that's not actually how the saying began. That wasn't the exact wording. You want to have your cake and eat it too. I think this
is kind of weird because I identify as somebody who I don't mind having my cake, but I often don't eat it too.
I am not big on cake.
I'm not big on cake. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm not big on cake.
I turn down cake many times in a given year. And if it is cake and almost any other dessert option, it is always the other one. I'm not going.
Like my sweet mother. I told you my middle guy's birthday was last week, but he was out of town for his. He left with his older brother, and then we left town. So my sweet mother, she brought a birthday cake over for him tonight, like earlier today, and she was like, "You want a piece?" And anytime your mother asks you if you want a piece of cake that she made, you have to say yes. Otherwise, it's you hurt her feelings. So I said, "Of course, Mom, I would love a piece of cake." And then I got a fork and I took a bite. I was like, "Oh, Mom, this is great." And then I just sort of walked away and left the rest of it there because I didn't want the rest of it. I wanted to have my cake to make my mom happy, but I did not want to eat it too. But in this world, I do like to have my cake and eat it too. And I also sometimes, as long as we're on the subject, you want to know something else about me? I like to count my chickens before they hatch. I count chickens sometimes before they hatch. I also like to have my cake and eat it too.
There's a Wikipedia entry for this as we wrap this show, mercifully. Then the title for this Wikipedia entry is "You Can't Have Your Cake and Eat It." You can't have your cake and eat it too is a popular English idiomatic proverb or figure of speech. The proverb literally means, quote, "You cannot simultaneously retain possession of a cake and eat it too," end quote. Once the cake is eaten, it's gone. It can be used to say that one cannot have 2 incompatible things or that one should not try to have more than is reasonable. The proverb's meaning is similar to the phrases "you can't have it both ways" and "you can't have the best of both worlds." And the first usage of this was from 1538. Thomas, Duke of Norfolk, to Thomas Cromwell as, quote, "A man cannot have his cake and eat his cake." That's a show.
I hope so. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Shouts to Cake. I don't love it.
Great. Hey, legit band, by the way. Love me some Cake.
I've seen
the
Cake.
Band destroys Cake the food, and I will not hear otherwise.
I've seen Cake the band at some festival somewhere.
It's great.
Shouts to Huck and Larnell. Huck and Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to and watching the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe anywhere you subscribe.
Doubt and remorse.
What are you yelling about? Can I just say bye?
Distance. I
still got a pack. I still got a pack tonight. All right. So let's say goodbye. And then hey, seriously, we need to update folks.
You madly. What's up?
Do you want to tell people where we're going to be on Tuesday at 1:00 Eastern?
CBS Sports Network.
That's right. We're going to do a 1-hour television show on CBS Sports Network. We're going to put coats on and everything. It's going to look so much more professional than this.
We'll see.
We'll see about that. So Tuesday, the next time you'll be able to see us, Tuesday, 1:00 Eastern on CBS Sports Network. Then I'll be in studio Tuesday night. Then on Wednesday morning, we'll be back with a fresh episode of the Eye on College Basketball Podcast where Norlander will figure out some way to bring up St. John's again. If it's up to me, we ain't talking about them ever again.
How about this? You get Kentucky out of those rankings, and I won't bring up St. John's.
All 5 losses are the teams ahead of them. I gotta go. Bye-bye.
Bye.